from Surprise in Arizona. Hope you're having a super fantastic sparkling day. Welcome to Before the Dirt Nap podcast, number 2028. Yeehaw. Today we are talking about genealogy road trip, how to plan a family history research trip. I apologize for my appearance. We have just gotten back from our evening walk. We got a little waylaid. We got out there. We finally walked. It was dark. We had to use flashlights. It was okay. And so here we are back. So I haven't had time to do my hair. So hence the reason for the thing. So road trips. I love road trips. And especially when I have a theme with them. And going on a research road trip is just so awesome. So my question for you this evening is, have you ever visited an ancestral hometown or a courthouse for family research? What did you discover? So let's dive in. We're going to talk about how to prepare for a research at a courthouse and libraries, other places as well, things that you can do. And did you know that some historical societies have records that aren't digitized somewhere, and sometimes the only way to find them is by visiting them in person? And it is not just historical societies, it is national archives, there are libraries, there are all sorts of repositories that are out there that have stuff that cannot be digitized due to the copyrights of them, or have not been digitized yet because they haven't got around to it yet, because they have a whole bunch of stuff that they're digitizing at the time, scanning and digitizing. So there is various reasons as to why you would need to visit in person. But most of the time when you're going to historical societies, libraries, archives, state archives, national archives, town archives, courthouses and all that, they will have records that have not yet been digitized or cannot be digitized based on the copyright thing. So, oh my gosh, I love going on these road trips. I remember back when I first started researching genealogy and helping my mum out with the research, that we would go to the area in a place in Lower Hutt that was a building that you'd go in there and you could research births, deaths, and marriages. And she would have her little notebook, and in her notebook would be the people that we were looking for and about the time that they were born. So I learned a lot from my mom when we went to go researching what to take with me, what not to take with me. And of course, this was before computers came along and helped us with everything. So we would go there. Now, I was in the Royal New Zealand Air Force at the time when I started helping my mum. And so one of the libraries I worked in was the microfiche library and the microfilm library. So I could whip through those things like nobody's business, very, very quickly, very easy. It would make my mum motion sickness watching. So, yeah, I just told her not to look. Or she'd tell me, can you just slow down? I go, oh, okay. So I would either slow down or I'd just tell her not to look. And then I would go, there we are. It was really cool fun going for them and finding the records, because then when we found the record on the microfiche, we got the little number, and then she could fill in the form with that, because there's a form that you had to fill in with a number, and then they would bring the big book out and place it on a podium thing so you could look at it and read it and copy down the details that you wanted. It would cost you if you wanted a copy of what was in the book. And these were big books. These were big ledger books. They were big and thick, and they're the nice ones that have the cloth covers with the leather corners and the leather spines. They were beautifully bound books. They really were, and probably still are, because they'll be archived somewhere. But we would find the people that we were looking for. And then we went to the National Archives, and this one, some of you have heard this story many times, is how we found my second great-grandfather. Hang on. Yeah, second great-grandfather, and how we found his coroner's report. And that was a very interesting thing to find. But we've also been to that same National Archives when it was in the old building, and it was a dark and dusty place. It was just wonderful. I loved it. You're going dark and dusty? Yeah. There's just something about digging through records in a dark and dusty place and finding what you need. We will find the shipping manifests and get copies of those of ancestors that had come over from England, or who may have gone to England via Australia, and then so they'd come from Australia to New Zealand. So we found those sorts of things as well. And Mum was always there with her notebook and writing things down. And she would always have the form ready. And we, in the National Archives, have these big card catalogs. And if you have never seen a card catalog, please just go Google a card catalog. They were just a bank of little drawers that were that held 3x5 inch index cards. You don't know what an index card is? These are index cards here. These are 4x6s, I think. I think they're 4x6. Hang on. Pretty sure these are 4x6. Yep, 4x6. Yeah, so these are 4x6. So the ones that are in the card catalogs were an inch smaller on them. They were 3x5s. And on it would be written all the information, and you had several ways that you could look up things in the card catalogs, by subject, by title, by author. I can get a hold of sort of that on the library side because I used to make these, but type them all up and everything else. These ones have got lines on one side and things on the other. These are very handy, and the colored ones are even more fun, but more about that soon. I know I'm sidetracking myself right here, right now. I'm sorry. Brains, where are we? Yes. So we would look in the card catalogs, and Mum would have the form there and fill it out and hand that in, and then they would bring the books out and the records out, and we could have a look at them and get copies of them if we needed copies of them. So it was a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. And then when we used to go on trips around New Zealand, we'd do our family vacations around New Zealand. We might go to a place where an ancestor lived, and we would drive, like when we were in Dunedin, we drove up this big, they have a lot of hills in Dunedin, very steep hills. They've got the world's steepest street there, although Wales say they have, but it's really a country lane. Sorry, Wales. I got cousins in Wales. Which reminds me, I have to send that thing to my cousin in Wales. Anyway, I'm totally losing myself. So we went up one of these steep streets, not the steepest one, that was Baldwin Street. We didn't go up Baldwin Street, but I can't remember the street we went up. And then we turned onto this little road, this little side road, and there's like about 5 or 6 houses in this little street. And my grandfather was raised in the second house in from the corner, and it was still there. And so Dad went down the end of the street, turned around and came back, and we sat in front of the house and had a look at it. We took pictures of it, and then we carried on our way. And very good trip. And like even around Wellington, there's Mum and I were, do we have the kid, all of us with us? I think all of us might have been in the car. We got into some place in Wellington there, up in the hills, and we're looking up from the road down here. We're looking up on this hill, and you can see houses in different spaces around the hills where they had to take lots of steps to get down to the house. There are houses up on top, and she pointed to this one house, and I think it was dark green at the time. She said, "See that dark green house with the blah, blah, blah." I'm like, we go, yeah. She says, "That's the house that Nana, her mother, grew up in." I'm like, oh, and she says, "That's also the house that your second great grandmother passed away in as well." And then she told us the story of how my second great grandmother had come back from a trip to Australia to see her son who was in prison. He's the one that was the nasty guy. He was one that was a Nazi sympathizer, embezzled their funds. He was a tyrant as a landlord. He got arrested twice on for treason in Sydney. And if you were watching a couple of days ago, I actually showed an image of the actual police arrest record thing. So she had just come back from visiting him in prison, where he declared on his forms he did not know who his mother was. Yet she went over there and visited, came back, and she passed away a few days later. And my grandmother, I think, was 11 at the time. I think she was 11. She said she was 11. And she still remembers that they took the pantry door off and laid it on the table so they could then lay my second great grandmother on the table because the table wasn't long enough to hold her body while they prepped it for burial. So they took the pantry door off and laid it across the table so that they had somewhere that was long enough to lay my second great grandmother, and then they prepped her body for burial. Yeah, there was some strange things that they did back then, but that was one of them. But total respect, and the other thing that was before. But yeah, so my grandmother vividly remembered that story. When my mum pointed out this house up on the hill, she told us the story about that, and so that was always an interesting one. And she's told me that story again and again over the years, which is perfectly fine because sometimes I forget some details of some stories. So when she repeats them, I'm sort of like, yes, now I remember that bit. Yeah, I remember that bit now. So those are really cool stuff that when you can go in person, not only can you do research in person, but you can go if you have an address of where they used to live and the place still exists, go for, walk down the street, drive down the street, see if the house is still there, take pictures of it. And if anybody asks you why taking pictures of that, you just turn around and say, oh, my second great grandmother grew up in this house, or my grandmother grew up in this house. So you can tell, and I'm just doing a genealogy research thing on it. You may even find a neighbor who may still be around that may have known the people that lived in the house that were related to you. You may still have a living relative in that house if it's a family homestead or something. You never know. And sometimes you just go knock on the door and say, hey, this is who I am. I know this sounds really weird. We had, when I was living in Haitaitai, we had a guy come to the door one day, this elderly gentleman. He was very nice. And he explained that he used to live in this house when it was a full house, but the landlord had split it. The house, it was a beautiful big house, had split it down the middle and turned it into two separate flats or apartments. And he turns around and he goes, there's a bedroom right here, and he's banging on the wall, which is part of the bedroom on the other side. And he said I spent he spent a number of months in there as he was recovering from some illness that he had. And he was telling us about the house and when it was built and giving us the house history and everything else. It was really cool talking with him. So, you never know when you go and knock on the door and you explain who you are, you might be meeting a relative that you didn't know about, that may still live in the house that was it's from your ancestors' days. You never know. You never know. When you so totally getting off track here. Let me go back to my okay, so how to prepare for a research trip to like courthouses and libraries. Plan ahead. What do you need to know before you go? If you go to the website of the courthouse or the library or the history society that you're going to go and visit, a lot of times they will or archives, a lot of times they will have a thing in there that says planning for a visit or preparing for a visit or what you need to know before you go. They'll have some sort of page there that will have information. You can also call the place directly, verify what hours they're open, any access restrictions, because some records may require an appointment instead of just somebody showing up. Ask if records are digitized, microfilmed, or only available in paper form. Make a list of specific ancestors and dates and locations that you want to search. So make sure that you know ahead of time who it is you want to research. Don't just bowl up there and go, oh, who are we here to research? Because then you're wasting your time and you're wasting the time of the staff that works there as well. When you're going to an archive or a courthouse, bring a notepaper and pencil. Some archives prohibit pens. A printed family tree or research notes for quick reference. A list of specific records to check, like do you want to check wills, land deeds, probate records, etc. A flash drive, camera, or photo scanner if photography is allowed. Identification and money for copies. Some offices charge per page. And some of them, they want to know how you are related to the person for the records that you are getting, because in some states, you have to be a direct descendant of that person, and they may have passed, so they then require you to establish your relationship with that person. Check county courthouse websites before visiting. Some require ID or have strict rules about what you can bring inside. Some will not allow you to bring your computers inside, so you have to go in with pen and paper. Some may even restrict the size of the bag that you bring in. Some may not allow you to bring a bag in at all. So it's got to be something that you can carry. So usually a small notebook about this size, and this is probably a 6x4. Oh no, this is a 7x5. 7x5 notebook, a little spiral notebook. You got a pen that can fit down here. You have pencils that can fit down this, well, not really fit down the spine there, but you can clip them onto the side. You may not be able to bring any bags, and you might only be allowed to bring in a small handbag, which you can just, this will just fit into your pocket. And you have your question, put in a folded piece of paper with what all the details that you're researching on there, that you can just fold it into fours and tuck it into this. And this is actually a really good size. I carry this around the house with me and just write stuff in there. And it has some genealogy stuff in here. Sometimes I keep this by my laptop when I'm working on my laptop in the evenings and doing genealogy research. I just keep that next to it to write down some quick notes and things as well. Where was I? Research local contacts before you arrive. Reach out to local historical societies, churches, town clerks. Don't just roll up expecting them to provide you with the information. Call ahead of time as a courtesy, and if you need to, set a time that you can come in and visit with them and tell them who you're looking for. because some of them will be nice enough to actually go and do some research before you get there. So it makes your time there a little quicker and a little more productive. Contact distant relatives who still live in the area. They may have some family stories or records. Look for cemeteries, old family homes, or landmarks connected to your ancestors. Cemetery visits are always fun. You can go there. You can take pictures of the headstones, the tombstones, the crypts, whatever it is that they're buried in. You can go and go there and take photos of those. And then you can go to the office of the cemetery and ask questions about their particular, in fact, stop there first, because I'll give you a map of the cemetery and mark on there where the different graves are that you wanted to visit, because you have your list tucked into your little notebook. And sometimes it is a lot quicker to, and I would tell you to, and the reason I'm telling you also to bring a notebook as well is that if you're going to a place that doesn't allow you to bring your phone in because they don't want you taking photographs of anything, having just a small notebook that you can easily carry makes a big difference. So look for cemeteries, ask about the plot records. The plot records will contain who purchased the plot, when they purchased it, every time the plot has been opened and why it was opened, and who was interred there in the body form or who was interred as ashes. And they will tell you if they were doing a burial or if they were interring ashes. They will tell you that in the plot records. And sometimes they will give you copies of it, sometimes they won't. But just ask. You know, the worst they can do is say no. Walking in your ancestors' footsteps. Visit churches where your ancestors were baptized or married. Book times with those churches beforehand, especially if they still have parish records from around that era. And that's what you're going to find out when you call ahead to say, this is who I'm looking for. They were baptized in your parish on this particular date, and I would like to, is it possible, or they were married in your parish on this particular date, is it possible to see the records? Also look for schools, businesses, or land that they may have owned. Explore local archives and libraries. Some small town records aren't available on time. Many small towns have local historians that can share stories that aren't written down anywhere. So make sure that you make time to go see those local historians as well. Must have tools. Okay, so digital tools are things like Google Maps and Google Earth, ancestry and family search apps that go on your phone, Evernote or Trello. They also work on your phone apps as well. Keep research notes organized, and a photo scan app, which of course will be on your phone. And in some cases, depending on where you're going, you may be able to take your laptop. So make sure that you have access to all of those apps and programs as well on your laptop, because it will update the app that's on your phone. Physical essentials for your trip. Portable file organizer to keep copies of records. So as you get copies of birth certificates, death certificates, marriage certificates, wills, trusts, all of that sort of stuff, you have somewhere to keep it. A small notebook or journal to document your findings. Battery backup and chargers for your phones and cameras. Comfortable walking shoes, especially for cemeteries. Always take pictures of courthouse signs, book indexes, and archive labels. This makes it easier to retrace your research steps and to fill in the source information of where you got that information from. Other things that I take as well with me is a really cool pen and pencil holder. It does have loops here, so if you have a ring binder, you can actually put it into one of those ring binders, but it folds, the flaps fold down and it just sits there. And as you can see, I have different colored highlighters, different colored pens. I've got pencil in there, everything that I can need for a research. Then I also have, I got a knobbly one in here. That's a pen. So yeah, I always have pens on me, and I always make sure I have a pencil as well, because if they don't know how to bring pens in, at least I have the pencil to bring in. I also take these. These are really good. These are file tabs, and these are Post-it style file tabs. So these peel and stick. Why do I have these? That is a very good question, and I'm glad you asked. So when I am in my notebook, I can flag the page for a particular relative. So if I find information on that relative as I'm going through other records, I can very quickly and easily flip back to that page because I have it tabbed, and add to the information that I found. So if I'm on a research trip, I might, if I'm carrying this, if I'm carrying my other planner, so this is called the AMPAD Golden Fiber Project Planner, and I absolutely love these things. and I love them for doing genealogy records. Why? Very good question. Glad you asked. Up here, you've got, these are for like taking project notes and everything else. You've got prepared by the date. You've got a spot here. You've got a page number. You've got a place to put notes down here, and you've got numbered lines. If you're on this page, it starts at 1 and goes down to 28, and then the back goes from 29 down to 56. These I find, I don't know, I just found them one day and I started using them for genealogy, and I absolutely love them. On the front cover, I will write the last name that I'm researching, using this book to research for. Every one of my clients has one of these. Well, I have one of those with my clients' research notes in there. I keep this for my research notes. I like having the little note-taking piece down the side here. It means I can do side notes. I can also use these to help me quickly find different last names that come under that main umbrella. Up here, I will put the name of the person who this record is going to be for. And this is a really good size too. This is, what's the size on this one? Oh, 9.5 by 7.25. Their project rules sheets is probably about college rule, maybe a little wider, but not as wide as wide. If that makes sense. But I put the person's name up here, and if it's like, and then I put a number here, and the number is this page 1 in this book for that particular person? And then I'll put a 1 there. If I have to start another page for them further on, because I fill up the front and back of this page, because this front page becomes theirs along with the back. If I fill up the front and back and I have to do a second one, there's a number 2 that goes next to it with their name at the top and then number 2. And then I put here the date that I started that page. And then all my notes go down in here. I use this for scribbling notes on the side. I then put the tabs on the side so I can quickly find that person. And as you can see, these tabs are colored. So when I'm working on a tree, the main names, I will keep like the main names for each one in different colors. So as I come across another main name within that tree, they will get a different colored tab. So at a quick glance, I can tell, oh, this is the main trunk, you know, like the parents. And then this is the parents, and you know, this might be the parents, and this is the parent, the father's parents' side. This is the father's mother's side, father's side, father's mother's side, mother's father's side, mother's mother's side, and then you go into the great-grandparents. And so you can use these to quickly find them and locate them again. And if it's somebody who is part of that tree, like a sibling, they get whichever place they fall. So if they are a sibling of your paternal grandfather, they also get the orange one as well, because they are part of that main trunk. So that's where that comes in handy, and I use them on these books here as well. I use these a lot. I love these things. So that's what I also take. I take my laptop with me. If I'm allowed to take it in with me, then I can take that in with me because I've caught ahead and I already know. I carry portable chargers with me for my cell phone. And now I can power my laptop off. I just realized I can now power my laptop off the phone charger. Yeah, because it's a USB connection into that. Because now how they do the Macs is that they have a USB connection that will go into one of their own USB plug things. But I can just suddenly realize I can put that USB thing into the phone charger and give my battery a little more power. But I always have my power cords with me for my laptop anyway. Is that everything I take with me? And then just regular Post-it notes too, because I will use the Post-it notes on the people's page with other little notes to go in there. If I don't want to start a new page, then I'll just put them onto that one on Post-it notes. Or I might say, it might just be a reminder to myself, like a to-do list. The Post-it notes I can use as a to-do list, like for this person, we need to check this record and this record and this record. Because when you're talking with the people, they may come up with ideas on places that you can go to find records. And so the Post-it notes come in handy because now you can put those Post-it notes on that particular person. So when you get there, you know what you're doing. Also with these books, with this notebook here, when I've printed off I print off the family group sheets of the people I'm researching. And that way I just fold them up and fold them in half and stick them in there against the page for that particular person. So everything for that person is always together. Sometimes I have to paper clip them. And guess what? This is not my traveling one. This is my stay-at-home one, but this one has color clips in here too that I can sort of kind of color coordinate with my tabs. Yeah, just to keep pieces of paper together where they're supposed to be. I actually have, you know, can I just trying to see where I put it. No, it's not where I thought it was. Okay. I actually have, and I don't know where it is right now. It's probably in my traveling backpack. But I actually have a little container that's about this. It's about this long, about this wide, about this high, and it's got two sides to it, where it's got two lids on it. And it's literally a portable office supply box. It has a stapler in there and staples. It has a little mini roll of tape. It has paper clips in there. It has the mini butterfly clips in there. And the next side, I think it has two sides of that. It even has a pair of foldable scissors in there. It has, does it have push pins? I wish I could find it. It's a really cool little box of office supplies. And I wish I knew where I had put it, but I can't see it handy anywhere. It usually sits over there, but it's not there, so it must be in my backpack. But it's just this really cool little office supply thing. When I was doing groups, I used to take it with me. When I was doing escorting groups on cruise ships, I would take it with me, so I always had office supplies with me, you know, staplers and all that sort of stuff. It's just a really handy little container thing full of office supplies. And like I said, it's about this long, about this high, and about this wide. So yeah, I know you can tell that from the screen exactly what measurements that is. Very good. But I have that I carry with me as well, along with my little pack of pens here. And then I have different colored Post-it notes. And I also take index cards with me. And you can also, do I have, oh, jeepers, I should have thought about this beforehand. I also have, okay, this has got stuff written on them, but there are colored index cards that you can get. You know, there's the purple ones and the green ones and the orange ones and the blue ones and the yellow ones. It's all got stuff written on the other side. Yeah, so you can get different colored things, and you can color code, and they're good for writing quick notes on and then using paper clips to like clip them to the person's page. They become like a great place for dumping ideas. You can create your to-do list with them or put them on the Post-it notes. There's all sorts of stuff that you can take. And so I have my little to-go kit when I'm going and researching that I take with me. And then based on what I can bring into the place as to what I will put into my handbag. It's got to be able to fit into my handbag. Otherwise, I literally, in some places you can't take it in. So a genealogy road trip can be one of the most rewarding experiences for a family historian. I'm going to challenge you to choose a location connected to your ancestors and start planning a visit. Whether it's a courthouse, a library, or their hometown, I might have to look at, you know, catching flights to get there, renting cars. It could be somewhere that's even more local, researching hotels that you can stay in as well. So start planning that trip. You know, where's you want to go? My genealogy trip that I really want to do is to go to England, Scotland, and Ireland, and Cornwall, to go through some of the records and stuff that are there. Those are the main places my ancestors came from. So I would love to go over there, see if places that they used to live in still exist, take photos of them, all that sort of cool stuff. And but yeah, you never know. So visiting ancestral sites brings history to life in a way that online research can't. Whether you're exploring a courthouse, a family farm, or an old church, the journey itself is part of the adventure. And when you're doing this adventure, you're also immersing yourself into the areas where your ancestors lived, which now brings them a little closer and more alive to you. And if you're in an area where you've got a great historian, they will tell you about historical events that happened in the area that involved your ancestor. And they may even be able to point you to certain books in the library that you can go to and read the actual story about that particular incident and how they were involved in that sort of thing. It could be that they were pioneers who founded the county that they're standing in. So, and in the library, there is a story, there's a book, a storybook. There is a book there full of stories, of true stories about the founders of that particular county. So you might learn even more about your ancestors that way. And with the historian, you may even be able to organize a tour around the area, going past places where your ancestors lived, going to the cemetery and visiting their graves, going past the church if it's still standing. There's all sorts of things, and they will tell you about some of the history stories that involved your ancestors, especially with the pioneering stuff and other historical things that took place within that town. And you can you get more of a sense of who your ancestors were and where you come from. And putting yourself physically in those locations actually brings those ancestors closer to you and gives you more of a sense of they were actually real living people, not just names and numbers and dates. Yeah, you start to create a bigger picture, a bigger story of who these people are. And then you know what you do? If you're not you video record your tour as you're doing that. You transcribe all of the information from the historian and stuff so that you can put it into some sort of book format or Word or PDF file or whatever, so you can gift it to other members in your family. And you can put pictures in there as well of the places you visited. You might have a link. You might put the video onto your YouTube channel as a private thing, so only the people who have the link can see it. And then in the PDF file, you put like a QR code there for them to scan. It takes them to that video on YouTube where they can watch the tour and they can read about the tour. They can read and watch at the same time. Okay, so that's it from us for today. Go out, plan a trip to go somewhere to research some family history, and just have fun with it. Just have fun, but don't forget to call ahead and make appointments when you need to. Find out from them, go to their websites, call them and find out when are they open. Do you have to make appointments? These are the type of records I'm looking for. Am I at the right place, or do I have to go somewhere else to get them? That is another important question too. Like if you're going to this one place where you think you can get birth, deaths, and marriages, and they turn around and says, oh no, you have to go to the next town over, and you have to fill out this huge file of paperwork that says how are you related, and then it's going to take them 2 to 3 days, and then you go back in 2 to 3 days and they have the records for you. They don't actually search on the day. So that's another reason that you call ahead, because it could be too that you have forms that you have to fill out. So you can fill out, you may be and ask them, can I fill out the forms now, and then the records be ready for me when I arrive on such and such a date? And they may say absolutely, or they may say nope, you have to be here in person to fill out the forms, and then you've got to wait a couple of days before we can get the records. So that's why you have to call ahead to figure out how long is my trip going to be. So with that, we are out of here. Go out, have a super fantastic sparkling evening. Go plan that family history tour. Take the kids with you. Have a game with them about it. What tidbits can they learn as you're going through and doing this research as well? Maybe they can help you do the research, depending, of course, on their age. But go out, have a super fantastic sparkling evening, and we'll catch you guys back here tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. Pacific. And if you are still on the fence about coming to Networking Riches, scan the QR code here. Come join us for the next couple of days at Networking Riches. It is going to be awesome. So have a super fantastic sparkling evening.